The Empire had conquered 17 star systems in less than 100 cycles. Their warships moved through the galaxy like a plague, consuming everything in their path. No species had ever stood against them and survived. They believed themselves to be the ultimate predators of the universe. They had never known defeat. They had never experienced fear. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and watched the blue planet grow larger on the viewing screen. His 4 eyes studied the world with cold calculation. The intelligence reports had been clear. This planet, called Earth by its inhabitants, possessed no interstellar travel capability. Their ships could barely reach their own moon. Their weapons were primitive projectile systems and crude nuclear devices. They had no energy shields, no plasma cannons, no antimatter torpedoes. The humans of Earth were completely helpless. Felt something close to disappointment. He had hoped for a challenge. The last 3 civilizations his fleet had conquered had at least put up some resistance. They had fought. They had screamed. They had died with some measure of dignity. But this world seemed almost too easy. It felt like crushing insects beneath his armored foot. The fleet consisted of 47 warships. Each vessel was massive, built for destruction and fear. Their hulls were black as the void between stars. Their weapons could crack continents and boil oceans. A single ship could devastate a world. 47 of them together represented absolute annihilation. Opened a communication channel to the planet below. He wanted the humans to know what was coming. He wanted them to feel terror before the end. They believed that fear was a weapon more powerful than any cannon. His message was simple and direct. Surrender immediately or face complete extinction. No negotiations. No mercy. The humans had one standard cycle to respond. The response came within hours. It was not surrender. It was not a plea for mercy. Instead, received a transmission that confused him deeply. The human leader, a female called the Secretary General, delivered a message that seemed almost calm. She acknowledged the fleet. She expressed hope for peaceful contact. She asked for dialogue and understanding. Laughed. His crew laughed with him. These primitive creatures actually believed they could negotiate with the Empire. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The commander ordered his fleet to move into attack formation. The time for talking was over. What no alien species in the galaxy understood was that humans had spent their entire existence fighting. They had fought the land. They had fought the sea. They had fought the weather and the beasts and each other. Warfare was not something humans feared. It was something they had perfected over thousands of years. While the fleet positioned itself for the attack, something was happening on Earth that could not detect. Deep beneath the surface of every major nation, ancient protocols were being activated. Bunkers that had been built during something called the Cold War were opening their doors. Missiles that had been aimed at each other for generations were now being. Every nation on Earth, regardless of their differences, was uniting for the first time in human history. The humans had also been watching the stars for decades. They had built telescopes and listening stations. They had sent probes into the darkness, and they had prepared, quietly and secretly, for this exact scenario. Hidden facilities around the world contained weapons that no government had ever publicly acknowledged, technologies that had been developed in silence, defenses that were waiting for exactly this moment. Admiral Wei stood in a command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the mountains of Asia. Around her, hundreds of officers worked at their stations with focused intensity. She studied the alien fleet on her screens and felt no fear, only determination. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They had announced themselves. They had given humanity time to prepare. The first surprise came when the fleet entered Earth's orbital space. Their sensors detected something strange. The humans were launching objects into space, thousands of them. They dismissed these as primitive satellites or perhaps escape pods carrying panicking civilians. Their shield systems would handle such insignificant debris. But these were not satellites. They were not escape pods. They were autonomous weapons platforms, each one carrying a nuclear payload enhanced with experimental technology. The humans had spent decades miniaturizing their weapons. They had made them smart. They had made them deadly. And they had made a lot of them. The swarm hit the fleet like a storm of fire. The alien ships had shields, yes, but those shields were designed to deflect energy weapons. They were not designed for thousands of simultaneous physical impacts. The nuclear detonations overwhelmed their systems. 3 warships were destroyed in the first wave. Watched in shock as his vessels exploded. This was impossible. These were primitives. They had no space military. They had no advanced weapons. How were they doing this? The second wave came from the surface itself. Hidden silos opened across the planet. Missiles rose on columns of fire, climbing through the atmosphere toward the alien fleet. These were not ordinary missiles. Human engineers had been working on them for years, combining every piece of advanced technology they possessed: hypersonic propulsion, electromagnetic warheads, kinetic penetrators designed to punch through armor. They tried to respond. Their plasma cannons fired at the incoming projectiles. They destroyed many. But humans had learned something important about warfare long ago. Quantity had a quality of its own. For every missile the aliens destroyed, 10 more were right behind it. More ships fell. Their hulls cracked and split. Their crews died screaming in languages that humans would never understand. Commander finally felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Real, genuine fear. He ordered his remaining ships to retreat. They would regroup. They would call for reinforcements. They would return with a larger fleet and burn this cursed planet to ash. But the humans were not finished. Admiral Wei smiled as she received the report. The alien ships were trying to run. She had anticipated this. Every military mind on Earth had studied the enemy's movements, predicted their reactions. The humans had been fighting each other for so long that reading an opponent's strategy was second nature to them. The third phase of the defense activated. Deep space installations that had been placed near the moon years ago came online. These were rail guns, massive electromagnetic launchers that could fire projectiles at incredible speeds. The humans had built them in secret, hiding the construction within legitimate space missions. The retreating ships flew directly into a wall of tungsten and steel. The projectiles moved so fast that the alien sensors could not track them. Ships that had survived nuclear fire and missile swarms were torn apart by simple metal moving at a fraction of light speed. Watched his fleet die around him: 30 ships lost, then 35, then 40. He could not understand what was happening. He had studied the human technology. They should not have any of this. None of their public records showed anything like these weapons. What did not realize was that humans had learned long ago to hide their true capabilities. Deception was one of their greatest skills. They showed the galaxy only what they wanted to be seen: weak, primitive, harmless, and all the while they prepared for the day when someone would come to test them. The Eternal Dominion was the last ship remaining. Its shields were failing. Its engines were damaged, stood on his burning bridge and made a final transmission to his. He warned them. He told them what he had discovered. He told them that the humans were not helpless. They were not primitive. They were the most dangerous species he had ever encountered. And then his ship was hit by 3 missiles simultaneously. The Eternal Dominion broke apart. Commander died never understanding how everything had gone so wrong. On Earth, the celebrations were brief. Admiral Wei knew that this was only the beginning. The Empire would send more ships. Other alien civilizations would learn what had happened. Some would see humans as a threat to be eliminated. Others might seek alliance with such a capable species. The world leaders gathered in an emergency session. They made a decision that would shape human history forever. Earth would no longer wait and hide. Earth would build a true space fleet. Earth would go out into the galaxy and show everyone what humanity was capable of. Within a year, the first human warship was completed. It was called the Vengeance, and it was built using everything humans had learned from the wreckage. Reverse-engineered technology combined with human ingenuity created something entirely new, something powerful. Within 5 years, humanity had a fleet of 50 ships. They were smaller than the vessels but faster and more maneuverable. Their weapons combined alien energy technology with human projectile systems. They were crewed by soldiers who came from a species that had never stopped fighting, never stopped improving, never stopped surviving. The Empire sent a second fleet to Earth. This time, they sent 200 ships. They expected to find a damaged planet still recovering from the first attack. Instead, they found the human fleet waiting for them at the edge of the solar system. The battle lasted 3 days. When it was over, the fleet was destroyed. Not a single alien ship escaped. Human losses were significant but manageable. Humanity had proven something important. They could fight and win against a superior force. Word spread through the galaxy. The species called humans from the small blue planet called Earth had defeated the mighty Empire twice. Other civilizations began to pay attention. Some reached out with offers of trade and friendship. Others watched from a distance, uncertain whether these humans were potential allies or future enemies. Admiral Wei was promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. She stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, they were planning their revenge. Other threats were certainly watching. The galaxy was vast and full of danger. But humanity had learned something precious. They were not alone in the universe, and they were not helpless. They had proven that underestimating humans was the last mistake any species would ever make. The dangerous fleet that had come to destroy helpless Earth was gone. The survivors of that fleet had carried a warning back to their masters, and across the galaxy a new understanding was spreading. Humanity was small. Humanity was young. Humanity was strange. But humanity was never, ever to be considered prey. The stars waited, and humanity was finally ready to walk among them, not as victims but as equals. Whatever challenges waited in the darkness between worlds, humanity would face them together. They would fight. They would adapt. They would survive. Because that was what humans had always done, and nothing in the entire universe was going to change that now.